Welcome to episode 4. Here we are, brand new episode. I'm so excited. We got I'm Nick Roberts and my co-host over here.
I'm Aiden Tornillo.
And welcome to the Think and Wealthy podcast. Before we get started,
welcome. Today, our episode is episode 4, what it means to be an entrepreneur. I see that you're here watching this episode, which means you're starting your week off right. You know, every Monday we come out with a new episode. So make sure that you subscribe and follow so you can keep up with every episode every Monday.
6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time.
And start your week off right.
That's what I'm talking about. And before we jump into this next part right here, I just want to say we have a fee. We have a fee?
We do have a fee.
We do have a fee. And our fee is this. It's very simple, all right? It's an information exchange here, okay? We keep things easy. You're not going to be paying with your soul or any money. No. We don't run any ads here, all right? It's a simple information exchange. If we provide you anything you find any value, you know, if you laughed, if you smiled, if you found something new, if you thought about this differently, then go tell someone. If we provide any sort of information that changes your perspective on life, go tell someone. That is how we grow here. We grow by, what is it?
Word of mouth.
Let's go.
Let's go. All right. So I think we should just jump right into it. And
we should.
Today we're going to be talking about what it means to be an entrepreneur.
Okay.
I think a lot of people say they're an entrepreneur.
Oh, yeah.
But not a lot of them actually are entrepreneurs, in my opinion. But today we're going to be talking about kind of what it means, what it requires, the risks and things that you are going to go through if you're going to be an entrepreneur, and kind of taking down some of the barriers and the mist around the whole idea of the word, and more showing you guys what it actually means to be an entrepreneur and what it's like.
Yeah.
Not living with a degree and like this kind of set of certainty, but instead just kind of going into life and looking for opportunities to make money.
Okay, so I actually wanted to start off here with literally the Google definition of what it means to be an entrepreneur.
Let's hear that.
Right? So Google says it's one who organizes, manages, and assumes the risks, key point right there, the risks of an enterprise, all right? An entrepreneur visualizes a business, takes bold steps to establish an undertaking, coordinates various factors of production, and gives it a start. That is, thank you, Google.
Thank you, Google. And so the thing I think, I want to start off with is, and the first question is, what is an entrepreneur? And Nick obviously just gave the definition, but we'll expand on it a bit. So in my opinion, an entrepreneur is basically what that definition said. Someone who's looking for business opportunities in life, trying to build businesses and trying to make money through, means of not being done already, right? So like, I think, anyone could technically be an entrepreneur if you're building a business, right? I think now, like, basically anyone who's building a business from scratch is an entrepreneur. But it's more like just saying you're an entrepreneur and having, like, this business.
The label.
Is not necessarily doing it the way that, successful millionaire entrepreneurs do it, right? There's a difference that separates the people who are actually going ahead and making money and being successful and the people who just say they're an entrepreneur.
Yeah, so I kind of look at it this way, right? There's kind of two halves to this entrepreneurship. There's the people who are about it and the people who want to be about it, right? The name's really tossed around. I'd say like everyone's like, oh, I'm an entrepreneur. I do this stupid, like, I don't know, I make candles.
Yeah.
And I don't really sell the candles, but I make the candles, right? Like, people really like throw around the name. And the thing is, I think entrepreneurs, it really digs down to like the mindset of who they are, right? Like that's the differentiating thing, because anyone can claim to be an entrepreneur, but the ones who are actually like building that correct mindset about it, the ones who are really about it, you can tell, and there's a difference, right? You can see in their work ethic and the way they portray themselves to the world. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure. And I think like when it comes to being an entrepreneur, kind of like what you said, there's like a lot of people who kind of fake it till they make it type of thing. Mm-hmm. But how I see it is like a lot of people become an entrepreneur because they don't necessarily have an idea for what they want to do with their lives. And a lot of time I feel like it assumes kind of like making a hobby into something that can maybe make money, right? So like almost everyone has a hobby in this world. And then a lot of people who don't know what they want to do just say, oh, well, I'm going to do this hobby thing and like try to sell it or brand it or market it. But the thing is they don't really believe even in themselves that they can actually go ahead and make money off of it. Like the first thing you have to do when you're like, okay, I'm going to commit to this thing that I'm doing, right? This brand, like the selling candles, right? The person might be making the candles because the hobby of making candles might be fun to them, but then they're not really being an entrepreneur because they're not taking on the risks and the dangers and the, you know, amount of work that it takes to then build a website to sell your candles and market your candles and scale your business as it grows, right? A lot of people are just like, well, I want to do this hobby thing, and then it kind of falls to the wayside and doesn't make a lot of money.
Yeah. It's kind of like something I want to bring up is so many people want to be entrepreneurs, right? You know, everyone's like, oh, entrepreneurs, that looks so sick. That's amazing. Like fast cars, big houses, big city like, you know, Donald Trump, like that whole lifestyle. You get what I'm saying? Like fast pace, high money, like craziness. But that's not what entrepreneurship is about, you know? Like that is like one of the biggest benefits of it. But I think there's so much more to it than just the flashy nature of entrepreneurship.
Yeah. Actually, one thing I think I want to point out real quick is I've been reading this book, The Millionaire Fastlane. It's like the new book that I've been reading. And when I started it, I kind of hated it because the author was talking about like, oh, the long-term approach to wealth won't make you any money, and you'll like and talking about how like the longer you take, obviously the less life you have being rich, right? And his whole motivation the whole time was talking about fast cars and lots of big houses and all of these things. But then as he like kind of broke it down, I realized it was a lot less about like, he's not saying, you know, your motivation is going to be fast cars, but instead talking about how like being an entrepreneur gives you those opportunities, but everybody kind of has a different thing that they seek in life. And I think entrepreneurs, besides, you know, instead of the people who have this goal that they want, but they don't take charge and take hold of it, entrepreneurs more like you do that. You think of what you want, you have that goal, and you don't stop until you get it type of thing.
Yeah. Actually, I kind of want to touch on that, the flashy kind of goal type deal, right? So I think, you know, who doesn't want to live that fast-paced lifestyle? Like that's awesome. That's exciting. And it's a great goal to have. And here's kind of the way I'm looking at it, right? So as an entrepreneur myself, one of those things I really want to strive for is like having a beautiful, fast car, right? And that is an awesome, great motivator. And I think that's a great way to kind of get into entrepreneurship. But it's not going to be enough to hold you in there during those like real brutal times. You know what I'm saying? Like when you're getting pushed around, knocked on the floor, like thinking about a beautiful car, it won't be enough to get you where you want to get, you know? And I think that's why so many people put on the label of entrepreneurship but aren't actually about it.
For sure. And yeah, I think it's like a motivating factor can be there forever, right? Like you can have this thing like that fast car that is your motivating factor. But as soon as things start to get hard and you're starting to see that it might just be easier to stop, you know, being an entrepreneur, stop pursuing this business and just not putting in the effort, it's going to be, that's where the real struggle comes in to keep it going and keep pushing yourself. And I think most people can't handle that. But like what I want to talk about now is like, I hear a lot of people, at least like people who are friends, that there's like two routes in life, right? Mm-hmm. There's a lot like, and this is not true, but there's like two main routes that people see. And it's either you're going to go to college and you're going to get an education, or you're going to go straight out of high school and start trying to make money and being like an entrepreneur, right? And I don't think that's necessarily true, but like I feel like a lot of people who don't know the college route then like don't know what they want to do, then because they're worried about not having this thing that they have to do in college, like not having their major decided, they are like, well, I'm just going to be an entrepreneur, but they jump around and don't really know, and they're constantly uncertain, and they're not just choosing something and going for it all the way, right? Like if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you have to choose that and go for it all the way till the end, because if you kind of like, you know, dip half your body into the water, but you don't go all the way, you're never going to get there.
So many people are like, entrepreneurship takes a ton of commitment. Like it's a grind. It is going to knock you down. And so many people are like, oh, if I just dip my toe in, you know, I'll probably get something. Like you can't come at it with that mindset. Just that little like ounce of effort, that's not going to get you anything, right? And people will kind of find themselves like you said earlier, the path of choosing either school or being like an entrepreneur, like going out and making money. So many people find themselves split on that path, and then they kind of decide like, oh, I guess I'm not going to do college. Let me just try this out, or they're going to try this out, but they don't commit to anything, and they don't make any of the sacrifices or the grind set to get to where they want to be, because they're just trying it out, you know?
Yeah. And I think like the main thing I want to say is this, like, I think so many people end up being an entrepreneur for a bit. Then as life goes on and they're continuing to try these things, but nothing works out, they just get less and less motivated. They keep kind of letting instead of like learning from the mistakes that they make and like getting through the learning process, they instead just kind of let those mistakes like build up and just kind of like bag on their discipline and their motivation to keep going. And then eventually they just end up working somewhere that they don't like that much. And then they end up just living a life that they aren't very proud of. And that's kind of what we want you all to avoid, right? I'm a college student, and I also, work on Thinking Wealthy. And I'm also someone who definitely isn't afraid to continue building a business and continuing that type of lifestyle if I want to, right? But the problem is that risk of entrepreneurship is so much greater than the risk of going to college. I think a lot of like people who are in the entrepreneur mindset are like, oh, I don't need college because college is expensive and I'm going to get all this debt. And yeah, if you go to a 4-year that's like some private school and it's like super bougie and you're paying $50,000 a semester.
Yeah, you're going to find yourself in debt.
Yeah, you're going to find yourself in debt. But if you go to community college and then transfer and, look for scholarships, you can easily get out of college with good saving without making a single dollar of debt in your name. And a degree along with that. And a lot of people look at degrees as not that useful, which I think is interesting. I think, like, if you're someone who's ready to take on that risk, then don't get a degree. Don't waste your time. But what makes me mad is when people complain and are like, oh, getting a degree is pointless, but then they're not ready to take on the risk of being an entrepreneur. So then they're just like, well, neither of these are going to work out for me. And then they end up living a shitty life.
Yeah. So here's something I kind of want you, the viewer or the listener, to kind of think about here is like, why do you want to be an entrepreneur? Because I'm assuming you kind of are curious about what this lifestyle is like, or at least you've been thinking about it, right? But I really want you to take some time as you're listening to this, maybe even get some notes out, like genuinely think about why you're interested in being an entrepreneur, right? Because as you spend time thinking about why you want this, you need to realize that want for why you want to live this lifestyle has to be your main motivator to push you through those hard times. Because like being an entrepreneur, this takes grit, it takes fortitude. Like this whole lifestyle will beat you down, bro. Like it is a challenge.
And it's way less, like there's less people to help you than there is in like the traditional college route. Like I think in college, it's like there's so many, it's like as little freebies as there might seem. There's a lot of times where you can, get help, right? You have teachers. There's people that are hired to help you. But in entrepreneurship, I mean, there's people who sell their courses.
Yeah.
But the people selling their courses are the ones who are unsuccessful in actually building their business. Most of the time. I'm not saying all the time, but I'm going to say most of the time. That's kind of what's happening, right? And I think the best way to learn, if you're going to be an entrepreneur and you're actually going to do this, is like just start.
Trial by fire, bro.
Yeah,
literally
like
just jump
you're
in.
You're gonna lose money. You're gonna lose time.
You're gonna miss your sanity.
Yeah,
bro.
you're gonna miss out on opportunities. Like your friends are gonna be like, "Let's go party or something," and you're gonna have to say no. And you're gonna miss out on some things. But that is what it takes. Like a lot of people aren't ready for what it actually takes to be an entrepreneur and to take that lifestyle, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like. I just want to, I kind of want to put this in perspective here, right? Like I'm a young aspiring entrepreneur and my goal is to make as many sacrifices as possible, right? Like I spend most of my day alone, just working on my business, working on myself, grinding at the gym, getting up early, going to bed early. Like I take this seriously, because I want that future. I'm going to make those sacrifices to get to that future. And I'm going to do what it takes. Like compared to, any other 19-year-old around my age who's out partying, having the time of their life, drinking or like clubbing, I'm going to pass them up because I'm working way harder than they are. And that's a sacrifice that I'm making, bro.
A lot of people are going to look at you crazy.
Oh, yeah,
And
totally.
even I look at Nick crazy.
Everyone looks at me like I'm
He
insane.
gets stir crazy in his eyes.
Dude, people look at me like I'm insane all the time. And
Yeah.
that's what it takes.
And it does. Like, it's the difference between the people, right? Like, especially if you start to do this and you start to pursue this harder, you're going to notice there's a lot of people who think you're weird. And it's not like a big deal.
Yeah.
But like a lot of people are like, you're going to, you know, get up that early and go to bed that early and you're going to work that hard and you're going to do all these things in your day. And I'm like, well, yeah.
They're always like, live a little. Like,
Yeah,
come on,
exactly.
try out this.
Exactly.
Try to have some fun. Like, bro, huh? I am having fun. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And it's like, and if you can have fun while doing it, that's the most important thing, right? It's like finding that thing that you find fun to do and then growing that, finding a way to make money out of that, right? Like at the end of the day, it is about making money. Like you have to find something that's profitable and just hold on to that and keep building it and keep working at it. And there's going to be so many people who are going to tell you that's not going to work and it's not going to be successful. And there's all these things that people are going to kind of bag on you for. But in 2 years, when you build that business and it's working well, all those people are going to come back to you and ask you, how did you do it?
And that's that moment where you come in and you're like, bro, you shouldn't have doubted me. You know what I'm saying? Like it is a grind.
People will, but if you can do it, then you'll have the proof is in the pudding. And there's so many people who do it, right? But there's also so many people who fail. So I think now we can talk a little bit about like, and even I'd say both of us we don't have all the answers type of thing, but we can definitely share what we've learned so far because, you know, even in the bit that we've done, we can share a lot of learning things to hopefully kind of push you guys away from falling into some trenches and some pitfalls before, and get you kind of off to a good start.
Yeah. So something I kind of want to, I guess, point out here, I guess the main thing that I think Aiden would agree with me on that you should watch out for is the risks. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's a lot of risks involved, and I think you should be aware of the amount of risk that you're going to have to take. It's going to be bigger than you expect, you know?
Yeah, there's a lot of cost to it. Like, so to even start off, right, let's say that you have a business idea, right? Something that you want to start building. Well, first of all, the first cost that you're probably thinking in your head is how much it costs, like money-wise, to get started. But that's not the only cost. The cost is the time it takes, the things that you're missing out on by doing it, the education that you might be missing out on, right? Like if you go ahead and build this business full-time and you just drop out of college, if you're not fully ready for that risk of it not working out and now you don't have a degree or a successful business, then you're not ready.
Yeah, you're going to be lacking.
So like the whole thing is like, in my opinion, I like to have a backup plan for my backup plan, right? Like I have like my main plan, and this is just how I'm doing it because I don't know, I guess I'm a little bit scared of risk. I'm not always super down to get super risky with it, but it can still work, right? So for me, I'm going to school because I believe that for me, most likely that regardless of if I use this degree very like really specifically for a job I get or more just like the stuff I'm learning in school is going to help me build whatever business I'm going to be building in the future, then that's great. So that's like my first plan. But then we have Thinking Wealthy, which is kind of like this brand that me and Nick are both building. And I know Nick has his other things as well that he's working on. So you can start by just kind of finding like this thing you want to do and centering as much time as you can into it. And it's going to take a lot of time out of your day. There's going to be a lot of times where you feel like you don't have enough time. But, you know, every movement, everything that you do is going to be put towards building and put towards kind of growing that brand. And over time, you can do it. You just have to you can't let yourself start to falter, kind of what we talked about in the last episode with like making, you know, one day where you don't get a lot done is fine. But if you kind of let that become a habit, then it's going to be a problem type of thing.
Yeah.
So you just got to kind of keep moving forward and keep working on building this business. And over time, it will work.
Yeah. So it's a habitual thing, you know, kind of building off the last episode. It's a mindset. Being an entrepreneur, you're going to take huge risks. You're going to get beat down. You're going to get, you know, kicked in the face. Like that is something I really want to drive home here is that it's not going to be fun until you actually get that breakthrough. But the thing is, you have to push to get to that breakthrough, you know. It's the intense, like the risk is not potentially getting that breakthrough at all because you never know if you actually will. And I think that's probably the most exciting part for me is like that chase after towards the ultimate goal, right? Like if I mess up, then it's game over. But if I keep going, think about how amazing it can really be. You know, like one thing that keeps me going is the present sufferings doesn't even compare to what is in store for me, right? And I think pushing myself to those limits every single day and chasing after that ultimate goal, that gets me just like hyped up, bro. I'm just like, I sound like a wild person, like insane, but that like probability of, oh, I totally could mess up here, that keeps me excited.
Yeah, and definitely that can be an excitement.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe sometimes I get a little more scared of it than you do, but that like it's important to constantly be thinking about it, like constantly be thinking about the risk. And like one thing that I think you're gonna have to do is kind of take the step towards being like, I'm not gonna be able to spend as much money because I'm gonna be spending a lot of money trying new things with your business and putting money into a thing that might not work, right? Like we've burnt money on things that we've tried.
Yeah,
it's happened, but you know, we don't, you know, cry about it. We move forward. We keep going because it's every single dollar that you spend is going to be a learning experience or it's going to work. And
exactly.
Either way, it's going to be good for you. Obviously you don't just be spending money, you know, all over the place. Like think about the decisions before you make
wealthy.
them. But, you know, be okay with it's an investment, right? It's like putting that money in can get big returns. So it's just like an investment, like on episode 2.
Mm-hmm.
So the other thing I kind of want to talk about is, because I think this is something that not a lot of people think about. I think there's like kind of like 2 sides to a business, or like 2 types of or ways you can go about building something that's going to be very simplistic. But you can either create something new or do something better than it's already being done.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I think our first ever business thing that we did together was like a lip skate. It was this clothing brand.
We did a clothing brand. Oh my God.
Didn't work very well because we were, you know, we were doing something in a very saturated market and we weren't doing it any different than anyone else. Right?
We were just like everyone else.
So, and that can be fine. Like if you just want to do something that's something you really enjoy, right? If making clothes is something you really enjoy, then for you, it might be doing something better than everyone else. If you really enjoy it, you have to work really hard to make this product that's perfect and
like
stands out. Like you can do that. There's plenty of, I mean, think about the amount of clothing brands in the world. There's so many clothing brands, right? But the most successful ones are the ones that do it different, the ones that do it well and produce something that's really, really cool, right? Like we all see it. There's plenty of like, I think startup clothing brands that come up all the time. They're like, oh, this is cool, right? And it can always be cool to see that. But I'd say there's a lot more success in the doing something new than the doing something different. You can always, you know, build on something that someone's already done. And you're almost never going to do something completely new, right?
That's very true.
Like unless you're some scientist, like inventing
create
like
a new element,
yeah,
bro.
like inventing something
Element
actually brand
115.
new, right? Like
Yeah.
teleportation or something.
Dude, that'd be sick.
It would be sick, but you know,
You could make a lot of money, like teleportation.
yeah, you could make a lot of money.
That's a good,
But
good
you gotta-
business idea.
You got to be pretty smart if you're going to be inventing
That's
teleportation.
true. You'd probably get killed by the government. You know, wait, this is totally a random side tangent. You know the guy who created like the water engine for like the car? You know, like the whole conspiracy theory about that? Like
The water engine?
he created a water power engine and then he got killed by the government. Or,
Really?
like he was running to his brother. I'm not even kidding. Like this is an actual thing. But like dude created like a water powered engine, got killed by the government. His brother kept telling people that he was killed by the government or something. And like the dude's last words was like, I was poisoned, something like that. So don't create a water powered engine.
Okay.
Because you'll get killed by the government. Conspiracy theory, thinking wealthy
Conspiracy
TikTok
theory.
episode series, part 1.
Part 1.
Owen speaks.
So, yeah, like
Sorry.
no, it's good. The main thing, right, is like you can invent something new, but
Don't invent a water powered
don't
engine.
invent a water powered engine. But inventing some new product and doing something new and introducing something new is always going to kind of be harder, in my opinion. Like it's harder to do it, but then I think it's easier to sell it because I mean something new. It's something that, and you got to make sure it's something that people need, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like let's talk about a bit about our clothing brand again.
Yeah.
That was that something people need?
No.
Nobody needed a shirt, right? Like people have shirts
It was
already.
pretty basic. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, like what you have to do is have a shirt that's cool and is something that people want, and then kind of
differentiate yourself.
and then have something different, right? If it's just a shirt that looks like any other shirt, you know, it's not going to change much. And it's fun and it's cool and you can do that. But if you really want to build a huge successful business that's making a lot of money every year, you have to be different. You have to be doing something that people need and is something new. Because most of the time, someone is going to find what you're doing and do it better.
Yeah. Honestly, that like being different, the whole thing actually links into like entrepreneurship. You get what I'm saying? You know?
Yeah.
Like being different is the whole key to being an entrepreneur, because that whole lifestyle is totally different from everyone else's. Like I'd say even personally for me, like a lot of my friend groups, people go out and they party a lot and like they go do whatever, you know, teenagers do these days.
Right.
And like to be different is I spend more time home and I like get stuff done. I grind. I go to the gym at 4 a.m. Like I sound like a psychopath, but like it's a different path, because to be an entrepreneur, you got to be different.
Yeah. And I guess another good example, my dad has these things. They're called, I guess we could shout it out. It's called Cabeza Case.
Cabeza Case, repping the swag.
Repping the swag.
I am repping the swag right here. Cabeza Case.
So what they are they're
for
like,
life.
They're weed pen cases. There's no weed sold in the product, okay? But they're for pens for smoking marijuana. And they're cases. And at the time I was like, because he told me like when he first started, he's like, yeah, I'm gonna make these cases. I'm like, no one else makes cases. And he showed me, and it was like all of these cases that were being made, there was like 2 brands that were doing it, and they were awful. Like the pen would fall out every time. It was just like nobody was doing it. And he found kind of that niche thing, and bro literally does not even advertise. He has no marketing. It's just like a side gig for him, and he doesn't care. He just likes doing it. But it's like no marketing, no advertising. But because it's different, people buy it just off Etsy. They just find his site and like word of mouth, and he gets sales.
That's awesome.
He's made like, I don't know the exact amount, and I won't say numbers, but he's made a good amount of sales off of it. I think around 1,000 cases have been sold. No marketing. He has like an Instagram page with like 100 followers, and that's it. Like literally, I'm like, I don't know how I don't know how this works.
So awesome. Yeah.
But what my point is like, if you can find that thing that's different, and you can find that thing that people need and is different and no one's doing, you can build a brand. And it can be literally with anything, right? Like marijuana pen cases. Like how many people smoke marijuana? I would say like not a ton, and not a lot of people want to walk around with this case.
Yeah.
But people will buy it. Like you don't need the whole world to need your product for it to be good.
Yeah.
Right? So like you're probably thinking, if you are like someone who wants to be an entrepreneur and you're thinking in your head, you might have like an idea or a product in your head. And my advice to you would be to stick with it, but also don't stick with it.
What do you mean by that?
So stick with it as it grows, right? Like if this is something that you think is going to work, keep working on it. But if you continue to learn and keep like trying these things and it's just not working, reevaluate, right? Like I think it's always good to reevaluate.
Yeah.
You always have to kind of think like, is this something? Like, because sometimes we can, you know, I'll be like, oh, this product is something that people want. And then it ends up being something that, you know, maybe people don't want. We were misjudging it, right?
Yeah.
Like overall, if you're going to do something, you're going to sell something, it should be something that you want. Like, you know that, like, if this was something else that someone else was selling, you would buy it in an instant, right? Like, you got to have, like, complete faith in it. But at the same time, if it's not working, you have to reevaluate. Constantly be looking at ways to improve, because I think a lot of people kind of get stuck, like, doing this thing, but they aren't really looking for ways to improve. Like,
they're scared to start, honestly. Like, people get caught up even before they get started, you know?
Like, in people, you're always going to get caught up. Like, you're always going to get these moments where like, can I do this? Can I do this? But it's like, you just have to fully commit, right? Like, even like with building this podcast, when I was starting, I was like, there's a lot to look at. There's a lot to understand before we do this. Like, can we do this type of thing? And I was thinking that, but then I kept saying to myself, like, yeah, it's easy. You just have to do it. Just keep working on it,
bro.
Right? And the first episode might not be the best, and each episode we learn kind of how to grow and how to do things, and we're going to get better every single time.
You guys will see 3 years from now when we're #1 in the business charts. Y'all know.
You will all see right here. It started here.
It's the grind.
And it is the grind. Like, it's how things get started, right? And even now, like, for example, I've thought about it. I'm like, okay, let's say Thinking Wealthy grows. How can it be profitable? How can it
Exactly.
make money, right? Like I'm thinking about that in my head, and I'm not going to share my business secrets with you because y'all are going to steal it. But like realistically, right? Like our whole idea is to not run ads on this. It's just it's an information exchange to share with you guys. So like the main way podcasts make money is with ads. So now if you want to make money, you got to think of something else. If you're not going to do that, how are you going to do it, right? So that is what entrepreneurship is about, like breaking through those barriers and thinking of things that other people aren't thinking about and doing things
Being different, bro.
that other people aren't doing, aka being different.
Let's go.
It all comes full circle.
That's what I'm talking about, bro.
But I don't.
think-
Do you have anything else to say?
Nah, honestly, I think that covers it pretty good. Like, be different. Like, that is the main kind of key
Yeah.
point here, is that the mindset of being different.
Yeah, like you constantly have to look at it as like, what can I do to set myself apart from other people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you can also as well follow people as well, like successful people that
Yeah.
you know find successful. Like I know you like Andy Frisella,
Andy
right?
Frisella, baby,
This guy's
75
constantly
day
talking
hard.
about it, right?
He's
And
my hero. Shout out to Andy Frisella.
right, so like it's good to have these kind of role models and these people, and you know you're not going to just be them, but you're going to build yourself off these role models. But the important thing is to constantly look at ways to grow yourself, become your own person, and be
Different.
different.
So, last point I want to make here, you guys, don't take all these negatives as something that should scare you off. Like, still, I think you should go for it. Be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
It is exciting. It's like powerful. It's amazing. Like, you get to be different, like truly different from other people. And that is like the coolest path forward, bro. It is so worth it. Like, don't be scared to try.
You can't be scared. Like you constantly have to look at it as like, I'm gonna take the risk and I'm gonna do it and do it fully, right?
Yeah.
Because if you don't, and if you just say, maybe I don't know, and you kind of live in this uncertainty all the time, it's never gonna work.
So, yeah.
We hope you guys enjoyed.
Oh, yeah.
I hope this helped. Maybe it's kind of gotten you motivated to get started with whatever you were dreaming about doing.
Something. Yeah.
And whatever it is, regardless of what it is, we want to hear it. Let us know.
Yeah.
Let's see it. Let's grow it. We want to see you guys be successful with us.
Yeah.
We want to grow all together. We are that Thinking Wealthy army.
Mhm.
Can we be an army?
I don't know if we can be an army, but we can definitely try.
We can try. Thinking Wealthy army.
Children of the corn. Honestly, though, guys, this is the beginning of your week. Starting it off right, all right?
You're getting thinking.
Yeah,
You're going
get
and you're
thinking.
going strong. And we're going to see you next week.
Monday, 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Whatever time you're watching it.
Yeah.
We're going to see you.
I'm going to start off the week right.
And we're going to start the week off right. Hope you guys enjoyed.
All right.
Peace.
Peace.